Denied. I'm going to go back now to public comment because we had a speaker who got here a little bit late. Elizabeth Valencia.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Valencia. I'm here on behalf of my son, Vincent Valencia, who's currently incarcerated in the McGuire or Maple Street facility in jail. I'm here on the agenda to address the mental health part of my son's situation while being incarcerated. There's been an ongoing type of police harassment, police misconduct, and the failure to address his mental health needs, whether being arrested over 100 times, and in one case, 54 cases within a year's time. My son suffered a police misconduct incident where I filed a formal complaint. This happened in October of 2016, where officer stomped on my son's chest, causing him to pass out. I filed a complaint in January of 2017. After that, it just seems as though it's just been an ongoing type of retaliation, 24/7, 365, where my son is just harassed, arbitrarily stopped and arrested. I was arrested by the same officer who injured my son in March of 2017 for resisting arrest and interfering with an investigation. My son was also arrested that evening due to IC, an embellished protective order that was put into place between us, which I was never agreed to. I never signed paperwork. I never received legal documentation agreeing to this protective order. When he was in custody, they kept him in isolation 30 days completely naked and hardly fed. They also would punch him in his chest in the middle of the night, drag him on the jail floor and call him degrading names. He was also administered incorrect medications 3 times in 1 month, 6 pills each time. He was released most recently. Well, I have to go back because he was sentencing judge sentenced him to a dual diagnosis treatment where the prosecutor was looking to give him 3 years prison time. And fortunately, the public defender at the time was open to taking the documentation that I had available considering my son's disability. And the judge decided that the sentencing would be for the dual diagnosis. His probation officer at that time, in less than a month, filed a motion requesting modifying his sentencing, and in doing that, removed all of his mental health treatment. I called and I asked the probation officer at the time, was my son represented by an attorney? And she replied, no, that he did not need one. So I felt it necessary for me to be here. This is very difficult. And he was just released in February of 2019 this year after being in isolation 23.5 hours of the day and given a peanut butter and jelly sandwich per day to eat. I went with him to his now parole officer at the parole unit on Price Street, and this was in mid-February. And during this meeting, it went fine up until we had to leave. And my son decided he was going to wait outside, and I was waiting.
Could wrap up. If you could just wrap up for a second, please.
Yes, thank you. And so he was acquiring some paperwork for me to sign. And before we left, he looked at me and said, if Vincent violates one more time, that he's going to take him to a halfway house in Oakland where he won't make it. And right now he's in jail looking at assault charges on officers when they beat him up twice, once in March and then again this year in July. The one in March his attorney knows about, but nobody knows about the other one except for me. So I'm just concerned about the outcome of his incarceration and the hearings that are going to be taking place, because my son mentioned to his friend that he's looking at 6 years prison time because of this. And one of the officers involved was also another one who had beat him up before. So
Mrs. Valencia, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak.
Mr. Manager, do you have any?
Yeah, if I can get your number, I'd like to talk to you after and look into this a little further.
Thank you. Go back to item number 4, Supervisor.